afternoon, my friends. It's 2 o'clock and it's Friday. It means we've almost made it through another week. I hope that the journey for this week has been one towards light, towards hope, towards, an end of suffering if you're suffering. Whatever the light at the end of a tunnel might be for you, I hope that this week has made some progress for you in that direction. I'm Pastor Lou Kilgore, and this is the Pastor's Chat. It's this Pastor's Chat, anyway. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, weekdays throughout the last 14 months. I've been right here, pretty much consistently, ready to talk, ready to share what the weather, what the season, what the time of year, what the lectionary, what my own heart leads me to believe might be relevant for our living today. So this week I'll conclude my discussion with you about, I think, this little known season that we're in right now, this almost untreated time in the church lectionary, the church lesson plan for how to be a Christian and how to love like a Christian, how to live like a Christian. That is what the lesson plan is about. And each stage, each Sunday, and then each individual day, there are steps along the way that remind us of what it is to be a Christian. Being a Christian, I'm becoming more and more convinced. And I know in some realms of Christianity, this is it's heresy, right? But Christianity is not so much about the doctrine that you say, that you articulate. It's more about how you live. It's how you live. Being a Christian is a way of life. It's a way of life more than it is a doctrine that you sign off to. It's a way of life. And it's a way of life that is described or that is modeled by Jesus. Now, that's not to say that Christianity is just a list of to-do things. That's not where I'm at. Believe me, if it were not for mercy and grace, if it were not for the grace and the love of God accepting me and reminding me that I am loved and accepted just as I am, then none of the work would be worth it anyway. But starting from the love of God that Jesus proclaimed and our receiving of it, I don't even know what that means in practical terms, our receiving of that love, living on it, counting on it, putting it like a base under our feet, as I often say during the time of the passing of the peace in worship, standing on the words of Jesus, the descriptions of Jesus, that God's love for us is so big, it's so deep, so wide, it's undefinable. And when we learn to trust it, that creates for us an inherent sense of our own value, of our own life. We are daughters and sons of God, beloved by God. And that then becomes the basis for how we live. I'm convinced you can't start with that as a framework and not have it affect how you live. It affects how you go through life. It affects how you relate to your neighbors. It affects how you see your life, or it encourages you to see your life. And this season, now, this is the last weekday of the season of Easter. Saturday and Sunday are the last 2 days of the season of Easter of the year 2021. It's 50 days since Easter Sunday morning. And on these 50 days, we have listened. We've tried to listen. If you follow the teaching plan that the worldwide church believes is important to help create disciples and to encourage you to be Christian, to walk in the ways of Jesus Christ, to live your life in that faith, then these 50 days are for listening in particular to what Jesus said, what were the last lessons that he gave? He was crucified, he was buried, and then he appeared again. He appeared multiple times. He spoke to them after the resurrection. And at the end of these 50 days of appearances, of lessons, some of them more pointed, less parable, more point, Jesus unfolds the powerful lesson of love, the ethic of love, the mandate of love, which he started on Mandate Thursday, Maundy Thursday. You shall love one another, and then people will know that you are my disciple. And that love is not sentimentality, it's a service. It's the life that nurses live as a career. It's the life that police officers and even soldiers live. They're in service. They are in the service. The Christian life is a life of service. It's a service beyond self, motivated by the discovery and the learning and hearing of the proclamation that you are loved. You are more than sufficient in and of yourself. You have an abundance of who you are that other people can really, really grow in life from what you can do for them. Jesus' lessons in these 50 days. This is kind of how Jesus left it. These are his last words. These are his commissioning. Go into all the world and baptize them. Pronounce the unearned but powerfully grace-filled blessing of God on every individual in the world, in every tongue, in every culture, in every place. Announce God's love. Baptize them. Baptize them and sign and seal them in that work. Give them something tangible that will help them to know that what you have proclaimed for them is true. This is the time in which Jesus gave these specific directions for how to live the Christian life. And this last day, I want to focus on what has been occurring to me as a kind of twinning, a kind of coming together of an awareness that after Jesus was lifted up on Transfiguration Day, I believe that the community must have entered into some new level of grief. Some new level of the awareness of the physical absence of Jesus. And I compare it to the stages of grief for myself with my mother. It's one thing when you hear that someone has died, and then the word that you have heard begins to take up flesh in you. It takes up content. It takes on some content meaning because they're not there at, at the Memorial Day picnic. They're not there in the summertime when you go back to the house to visit, like with the kids. They're not there to further the experiences of memories and hopes and joys. They're not even there to fight with, to argue with. They're not there. And I know, I walk as a pastor with and beside many people who live daily with grief. I mean, it's a constant presence in their life. A mother who's died 10 years ago. A child who's died 13, 15 years ago. A child that died 20 years ago. Imagining how the child would look today. A father who died. A brother, a sister. All these reminders of our grief. And in some ways, Facebook has been a marvelous place for people to mark and set down markers of these reflections and these memories. Facebook is a place where grief is borne witness to, and with pictures and shared in a larger community who are recipients of it because they know it's true. We know it's true. I mean, we have our language to think about it. They're on the other side of the bridge. They're in heaven and they're looking down on me now. They're proud of our children and our grandchildren. They would be happy to know them. We have all these ways of trying to give focus to this feeling, but it's still the awareness of the absence of this person in our life. And I think that's what those disciples on those days after Jesus was really gone, now he's really gone. And the silence settles in. And they do, thankfully, remember his instructions, which were, go to Jerusalem and wait for me. Wait for God to send you power to live. And that's what they do. They go to Jerusalem and they gather in the upper room and they wait. Who knows what their conversations must have been? Who knows, what were they sharing? Did they love each other? Had they yet become confidants with each other? Mostly when Jesus was with them, they were fighting over superiority and first position. They were competitors. Even the witness to the resurrection, the one raced the other one to the tomb and was so proud to say, I got there first. So in those days from, I don't know, Tuesday to Sunday, were they looking at each other? Were they finally seeing each other? Were they finally seeing Mary Magdalene for all that Jesus saw her for? Were they comforting each other? Reaching out, offering words of condolence, knowing condolence, having a mutual grief, a mutual sense both of joy of having seen Jesus in his Easter resurrection experiences, but also a mutual grief. He's gone. He told us to come here. He told us to come to gather here again. And I don't know, how many days would it be? I think they were probably looking at each other and recapping with each other what had happened to them in their lives in the past 3 years. They already were not the same. And they had this amazing call to life laying out in front of them from their dear friend Jesus. I wanted to read to you a meditation from my grief book because I think it's that twining. I think there's a work of grief that is going on for the disciples in this period after the ascension. Let it, this feeling that we have, not be death, but let it be completeness. Let love melt into memory and pain into songs. Let the flight through the sky end. I hear the transfiguration. Let the flight through the sky end in the folding of the wings over the nest. Let the last touch of your hands be gentle, like the flower of the night. Stand still, I hear Jesus saying. Go and wait. Stand still, O beautiful end, for a moment, and say your last words in silence. I bow to you, and I hold up my lamp to light you on your way. I cannot know where you are going, but I hold the lamp of my love aloft to accompany you on your way. If you have a loved one that you are experiencing regular daily grief, maybe it comes back once a week, once every hour, this is an image that is very helpful, is to, in a way that's unthinkable, instead of fighting against the truth of the death or the tragedy, giving yourself and the strength that you have today to imagine holding a light for the one who has been taken, to light their way, to use the energy of your life to proclaim your love for them in a way that says and imagines that the pathway for them is dark and it needs light so they can see where they're going. I love that. I love it too as a way of thinking about Jesus' disciples. Maybe they went back to the room and, like this passage, maybe they let their last words be silence. Maybe there was just silence. While the unbelievable, overwhelming power of what had happened in their lifetime began to settle in. You know, we human beings, and I speak for myself in some ways, but with an assumption that you are like me, you know, life brings at us really large experiences. Larger than we are. We cannot take them in. We cannot process them. It sometimes takes weeks and days and months and years. There's just too much that happens. We can't move at the pace that life moves at. It takes time. So I think about this recovery from this pandemic. It took forever and ever for me to feel like I was finally adjusted to a safe way of living. Masks and isolation and settling in, getting jobs done at home and using the best of my energy and time the best way that I could. Committed to having a productive life and committed to discovering new kinds of life. I remember the pastor's chat I did about how the heart, when there's a blockage in the heart has the capacity to grow a new artery around the blockage. That's what I wanted my time in quarantine and isolation to be and worked for. And I became adjusted. It took me a year. And now I find myself in this funny place of saying, okay, the change back is coming fast. Am I safe? I don't know. What do? I don't know. What have I done? What of the things that I have done before can I continue to do now? What have I decided I don't need to do anymore? What lessons did I learn that I now want to put into place? I can't do all this in one day. I can't do it in 1 week. It's going to take time. And it's going to take time and distance for us to look back at this global pandemic that we lived through, some of us, and recount how we're different today, how we want to live differently because of it. What did we learn that will stick? What did we learn that will really stay with us? I think these are the things that the disciples must have either been talking about or thinking about as that day of Pentecost approached, a day in which something deep and mysterious beyond all mysteriousness happened, when the Shekinah, the presence of the living God, came and took up residence in the lives of those disciples. Not in exactly the same way in which God came in residence among us with Jesus incarnate God, but that the Holy Spirit of God, however you imagine that. Presbyterians, we don't even think that much about the Holy Spirit because it seems too mysterious and we can't tack it down, which is exactly why it is the way it is. But that somehow the presence of God, the Shekinah of God, the Hebrew people prayed for the Shekinah, the presence of God, to be there in the wilderness, in the tabernacle, so that they came in from their weary lives of trying to eke out a living in the dirt and the dust and the sand. They would come inside the tabernacle, and there, the presence, the very presence of God, would strengthen them in their life and give them a new sense of their calling to be a blessing to the families of the earth. I don't know. It just seems to me like this is a really good word for the really good time and a good thing that might apply to 100 different ways of your life. I hope you heard it. I hope you can hear it. I moved fairly fast through it. You can replay it. But whatever else, know this. If something I've said is helpful, good. Take it, use it, let it strengthen your life. If it's not helpful, leave it right here. Don't worry about it. but mostly take with you my prayer of blessing. The blessing of God be upon you and strengthen you as we come to this Sunday of Pentecost. If you need in-person experience to strengthen your faith, come to worship if you can. Come, you can be here. It's a little limited, but it's going to be, I think, a meaningful experience. I'm not sure I know how to adjust. All of a sudden, having people that I know and love present when I'm here doing these conversations and when I'm preaching and leading worship. But we're on to it. We're ready. We're going on. God bless you, my friends. God bless you and keep you. And I will be back on Monday. Monday is a holiday. I won't be here on Monday. I am going to, no, wait a minute. Nope. Monday's not the holiday. It's the following Monday. I'll be here on Monday at 2 o'clock. I'll look for you. God bless you, my friends.